And this is what we have to do. You have to save children in order to save the race.
I want to say something that some of you may disagree with, and that is, I don't think you can just work for black children. I think that the minute you start working on the problems of the black child, you find that you have to be concerned about all children.
You know what's funny? You know, a lot of people is calling foundational black Americans divisive and saying that we are divisive and we are dividing the diaspora. Where I'm saying that there was never a unification of the diaspora, right? Pan-Africanism was an idea that was really being pushed along by black Americans. So many black Americans have been standing on the front line of Pan-Africans over the generations. A person like me comes out of Pan-Africanism because in our communities, we was raised to love black people globally. When you came from other places, we opened up our arms and we brought you in and we ingratiated you into the culture. So much so that when we talk about hip hop, right, you got a lot of Jamaicans and Belizeans and so many of our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean that came in that helped innovate and add on to a culture that already existed in America, which is hip hop, right? But then these groups turn around 40, 50 years later and say that we don't have a culture. They start talking down on us. It's not like the people of our grandparents and great-grandparents' generation, where even during those times, they had issues because A. Philip Randolph, who is the father of the black middle class, who helped create the middle class with the Pullman Porters, he was a restrictionist. He spoke on the West Indian coming here and having a different mentality than the foundational black American. It's not me making it up, right? But you have a lot of Africans that's in their continent that talks about their generations. And they talking like this.
Africans, we lie a lot as if we know where we're from. Most of us can't tell you 2 generations past where we are from. And I've had the privilege of traveling in Africa a lot as well. And my identity is ubiquitous. Right? Nobody could tell where I'm from by looking at me. When I'm in Nigeria, they think I'm Igbo. I could go to Ghana, they think I'm Ghanaian. The average Gambian may look at me and look at us and say, you don't look Gambian. I'm just African. So, and part of the book is, there's a chapter I talk about life as a hyphen where I'm African. I think I'm from the western part of Africa. That's what I identify the strongest with, is my identity as an African, but I have a Gambian cultural background and heritage.
Now, today, Bishop George, Street Media TV, is going to checkmate the game. Because coming out of the Pan-Africanism, and now we're in a generation where we found out that nobody's practicing that but us. But everybody's trying to take our culture and say that we don't have one, while at the same time keeping their culture, but not allowing us into their culture. Now, when it comes to Pan-Africanism, the term Ma'afa, that was created by Marimba Ani. We created that, the Ma'afa, to describe the African Holocaust. We have people like Malefe Asante here at Temple University, right here at my school, right? Malanga Karenga, who created Kwanzaa. Dr. John Henry Clark, who created the African studies in the universities in the 60s. Asa Hilliard, right? Marimba Ani, Chancellor Williams, the destructions of black civilization. We were the ones pushing the line, right? We watched our grandparents, and those were the ones pushing the line. And now we're saying enough is enough because we found out that those people had no respect for our grandparents and the way that we were trying to push the line. We saw the elder, James Smalls, call out the Africans, right? So now when we're doing it and we're trying to name ourselves, that don't mean that we hate Africans. But I just showed you where that African said that they lie a lot. And they try to hold us to a standard that they don't hold themselves to. So now we're holding them accountable and we're calling it out. But it seems like we can be held accountable, right? We can be held accountable, but nobody can hold the African accountable. They're infallible. No. And in this video, I'm proving my point. Check this out.
You know, my husband studied in the US, and I always was like very critical of African Americans. And then I would say, oh, okay, yeah, I know. They're famous for basketball and music. What else? And my husband would say, start researching pre-colonial Africa and see who's writing. It's not Africans, it's them. So give them the dignity and the respect that they deserve, because while you live on this continent, you have done very minimally to research this continent before colonization. And when I had to do that for my PhD and the first book that I've written, I shocked myself because most of the writing sits them. So I then said, okay, I was ignorant. I amend myself. I am now self-critiquing and snapping out of it. They are not only good for basketball and music and art. When African Americans are truly Afrocentric, even the term Afrocentrism, they came with it. They are the ones who've cautioned us and said, Pan-Africanism is this, guys, but Afrocentrism is this. You need to posit everything you're doing. If it's psychology, it's okay. We know the university could have been UCT, it could have been Oxford. They trained you the Western way. But as an African, go now and develop African psychology. Go and read Africa pre-colonially, how the relations were. Come with it down all the way. From that, you'll be able to craft what you call African psychology. So they're saying to all of our things, let's do that. So yes, I say to people, I love Africanism, but I've gone beyond that. I'm Afrocentric. Everything for me is about Africa and being an African.
And see, you have Africans that come here to America and they come around foundational Black Americans and they start learning the truth. They start finding out that we know more about their story than they know about themselves, right? And the ones that could see, because she self-admitted said she only understood basketball and music. She didn't know our contributions. She didn't know that we were studying Africa because we was told to study Africa. Everything that foundational Black Americans did, whether it was from education, to inventions, to music, to dance, to sports, we excelled in. We excelled in better than everybody. They left Africa and came here amongst us, and we taught them. They came to our curriculums and then took it back home. But yet and still say that we don't have a culture. So her husband had to check her and let her know, wait, whoa, slow your roll. Foundational Black Americans ain't no joke, man. Foundational Black Americans know this history, and they breaking it down. Even though they've been ripped of a thorough knowledge of self, they still know who we are. They're naming and claiming themselves. So now, once we found out that these groups wasn't honoring that, we separate ourselves and we start self-identifying ourselves. But I told you guys in my yesterday live stream that this thing started from within, because some of the biggest traitors to foundational Black Americans were other foundational Black Americans. The bourgeoisie class, that talented 10th class, those educated Black folks up in the Boston, Connecticut area during the 1800s. Those that thought that had close proximity to the W man and the W woman. And they seen things through their lens. Well, let's take a trip down memory lane and let's look at the real big mamas. Let's look at these big mamas in the conversation that they was having. And you'll see the bourgeoisie raccoon class.
And this is what we have to do. You have to save children in order to save the race.
I want to say something that some of you may disagree with, and that is, I don't think you can just work for Black children. I think that the minute you start working on the problems of the Black child, you find that you have to be concerned about all children, don't you? I mean, if you're working on drugs...
Well, don't ask me that. I will never refuse any human being to come in there, but I'm concerned about mine, because you can't go, up in the Bronx when you haven't even cleaned up. I can't clean up my house. In other words, how the hell am I going to clean up yours? I got to clean up mine first, just like this sister said. Then clean up yours.
I don't think that we can work just on our own problems unless we are concerned about the total society. And as a matter of fact, unless we go across the river too, and we're concerned about a lot of things happening in the world. This is a very small planet, and we feel the impact of these forces. I don't think that we can concentrate just on what you call the Black nation, so long as we exist in America, which is a sick society. Don't you think we have to work on...
No, I don't.
I just wanted to define this as a difference of opinion.
I appreciate everything you're saying, but quite often when people do not understand, they cannot relate. And I don't really think you understand what's going on in Black communities. Yeah. I think you're very comfortable. I mean, please.
Go ahead.
I think you're very comfortable sitting in your office and trying to be very community-oriented from your desk and in your plush, air-conditioned place.
It's not very
No, but you have to get... I would like to see your office moved to a rat-infested apartment
if I live in one of them roach-infested apartment
Right, yeah, we've
houses.
all known what it is.
No, but I live there right now. I mean, I live there right now.
But my point is you have to understand how the system operates in order to take it over and to make it more responsive to
Ms.
you.
Fairfax,
Now, there are
I
ways
know how it
of, and I think there are ways of turning programs around. I think
know
all of
how
you
it
were
is.
involved
Ms.
in that.
Fairfax, you
Take a
know.
walk.
Really.
Pardon?
Take a ride. I mean, really through Harlem. Even if you live there, go at 114th Street and 8th Avenue, then curve all up through there. You'll see how the system works.
Indeed.
You will see how the system works. And when we see, professional people of our own race starts to work with that system, then we know, where it's coming from. And a lot of us black people have to begin to learn that we are black, and that man will always look at us just as that. Regardless of how much he might eat with us and pat us on our back, he still look at us for just what we are.
Shout out to those big mamas, man. The one at the end almost brought tears to my eyes because she really broke that down and explained. And she got that woman, she set that bourgeois woman straight. And those are the traitors of the black community, and they still exist today. She talking about she's assaulting their intelligence, trying to tell them that they don't know how the system works. And the woman turned around and told her, no, hold on, slow down. It's you that get in that system and start to think and move the way the W man conditioned you to move. They told you in the King Leopold's letter, we must keep their women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. We must keep their women in 9 months of submission to work freely for us. That's psychologically conditioning to make you be solely dependent upon them. Right? So now when you come around your people with the mindset that they don't understand how the system works. And the woman said, no, the longer you are around them, you start forgetting your people, and you start to talk and think like them and tell, no, we know how the system works. She said, just go down to 110th Street, 112th Street, you're going to see how the system works. We are very intelligent. We get it. We've been fighting diligently on the front line for generations to change the trajectory of our communities. And we have a whole history of what has happened to us from things that we've built, right? We went into politics. We've done everything, right? And this country has went out of their way to always make sure to let us know that we are black. So now what happens is when you have, like she said, the woman said she believes that you have to include everybody. She believes that you have to include all groups, even white folks. But that thought process still permeates through the minds of our people. And when you have the black clergy and the so-called educated black class that's connected to that democratic plantation, these are the same people that's rewriting our story and pushing us out. So the conversation that was had back then with those big mamas is the same conversations that's being had now, except the grandchildren and great-grandchildren now are rebelling. And they're saying they're listening to Big Mama. We're separating from that. I got it, Big Mama. I know that y'all was on the Pan-African thing, but Big Mama, we can see now that in the last 60 years, Big Mama, it didn't work. So we're going to try it this way. And Big Mama going to say, okay, baby, just be careful. Just be careful, baby. But let me explain, Big Mama tell you, but let me explain to you some of the tricks that I know that this W man and W woman will do when you go out there on the battlefield, baby. Right? That's what we doing. We know what Big Mama and them was on. But Big Mama and them not here no more. Right? So now it's our turn to push the line forward and be the seed planters going forward so we don't make the same mistakes. So we look at what Big Daddy, excuse me, because I got to include Big Daddy. We got to look at what Big Daddy and Big Mama did, the role that they laid. The role that they laid, now we got to push the line forward. That's what we got to do, right? So, and we found out that they wasn't practicing Pan-Africanism and it wasn't working. So now we're writing our own story going forward. So now as seed planters, we're thinking futuristic. We're moving futuristic. So now 50 years from now, they're going to talk about our stories. We're now written into the story. And they're going to talk about the day that foundational black Americans named and claimed themselves and separated from all that stuff that wasn't working. Don't mean that we hate other groups. It just means we want our own identity. But y'all got to let me know what y'all think. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time, peace.